Hi, I am Henrik Dietmar, and this is a short introduction video to my scenario SAR, which you have, to my delight, volunteered to run on Fastaval. And this is, well, just sort of, this is a module I made in Tabletop Simulator, and after I made it, I figured this would actually be kind of perhaps a decent way to sort of demonstrate sort of the core loop of how the game functions when you venture into these streams, which you'll read about in the scenario. We have the four characters around here, and as you can see, there are sort of a couple of components to them. This is the sort of core sheet. And these are the three traits, which is sort of, on the one hand, it is a sort of way to use, a sort of way to describe the character or play it in a particular sense, but also has these prompts down below on if you're sort of stuck on how to describe something in these streams. You'll notice that they are all double-sided. And that is because during these streams, then they can sort of be influenced by the dark spirit Angra, which is tormenting the Emperor, and sort of and these things which they start with are how they like to present themselves, whereas what's on the other side are the things that they'd rather keep hidden and perhaps even hide from themselves. Also, each character has a little deck with dream, a little deck of dream cards, and they don't quite look like this in reality. In reality, they have each character's name on the back, and that's kind of how we start a dream. Once everyone decides that we're venturing into the next stream, then everyone shuffles their dream deck and just picks the top one, and in turn, as they like, they simply read aloud what it says on these dreams, on these cards, and that sort of sets the stage. And it is since they're shuffled, then as you can probably imagine, then things can get a bit disjointed, which I think is quite fine in this dream-like logic, which the game changes to once you enter the dream. The last one to read aloud from a dream card will take the top card of this center deck, which is also shuffled, and look at it, and then describe something that happens in the dream, sort of based on this prompt which has been given. And there are basically three kinds of cards. Most are either plus or minus. Plus cards are good. The group needs 5 plus cards in total to succeed at a dream, whereas minus cards are negative. They don't sort of count against the pluses. Instead, the minus cards are the ones that sort of break the various traits of the characters. So if Anahisa here has drawn a card, then she describes something based on this card, and then she basically there's going to be the pile of cards, which is undrawn from, and then there's the hand of cards, which is passed around. So, for instance, if Anahita here passes the buck to Thragna, then Thragna decides whether to continue exploring the dream or whether to start exercising. Cleansing, I think, is the right term. And usually at the very beginning, what you'll do is you'll explore, which essentially means you draw another card, you look at it, you narrate something based on it, put it in the hand, and send that along. At some point, this hand is going to be big enough that you don't know for sure, but you think there's probably there's probably 5 pluses in there, and that's when it makes sense for you to start this exorcism. But there's really no rule for when you can start it. And when you do this, then this hand of cards, you shuffle it, and then you draw the top for all to see, as opposed to when exploring. And if it's a minus, as in this case, then you would sort of describe how something in the dream possesses your spirit, or sort of infects you, or in a sense, breaks something in you, or reveals something inside you. Kind of doesn't matter that much if it's not necessarily one particular thing that happens when you get a minus, but it's this essence is it's something that breaks a trait of yours. So far so good. You take the minus and you keep it in front of you, and then someone else. There's really no turn order. Then draws another card, and if it's a plus, then it's put in the middle. And essentially, the dream, this cleansing process stops after there are a couple of conditions. And when 5 pluses are drawn and revealed on top, then the dream succeeds, and everyone rejoices. Well, probably, maybe not. Depends on how many minuses you've got. And we sort of leave the dream to this intermission scene. But the dream counts as succeeded, and the more dreams that succeed, the better. And that's one. That's the ideal one. Another way is that if this hand of cards, if it runs out of cards and there aren't enough pluses, this, for instance, this would have been like 4 pluses. That's not enough. It needs 5. Then the dream fails, and whoever draws last, well, there's actually a rule that the one who starts the exorcism also has to draw the last card. Then basically shows how evil is not, the evil spirit Angra is not cleansed from this dream. And then of course there is another way for it to stop. Anytime a character draws a card, and it's not the last card in the hand, and it's a minus, then they can choose to forfeit. Basically go, this is not worth it. I'm sort of putting out. And then this card is ignored. But everyone else breaks a trait for every minus they have. And the dream fails. So you can always go, I don't think this is gonna work. I'm pulling out, and if someone does that, then the dream is forfeit. Angra wins that dream in essence. Now I've mentioned breaking a trait a couple of times. Basically, there are these traits. Every time a trait breaks, which is usually at the end of a dream when you've drawn one of these, then you can say, okay, I would like to break this one, flipping it. And then it means that you have to play your character a slightly different way, or that in some manner, some of them are, it sort of reveals something new that you didn't even know about the character. Of course, once you have, once all 3 of these have been broken, then if you take any more minuses, then the character breaks entirely, and that changes many things about the character, really. Not so much in mechanics, but more in how you'll perceive it and how others will perceive that character. That's basically how a dream progresses. The only thing left is that there are 2 cards in this deck that are called Apocalypse cards. And what is special for them is that if you draw an apocalypse card during the expiration, which is really the only time you can draw them, then you describe the end of the world in the dream. And then you get to choose. Either you break immediately one of your own traits and shuffle this apocalypse card back into the pile, or you immediately fail the dream. So these apocalypse cards will only ever be in the center pile, really. If they reach a hand, then something has gone wrong, which can happen, and it's probably not really to be sweated. And really, that is how sort of the dreams function. And there are a couple of small things that I think are better left to sort of when you read the scenario. But really, I think if there's one takeaway that isn't really mentioned in it, is that this game will probably be fine even if some small things are misinterpreted. The basic essence of, at least what I think is what makes this game sort of fun, is that you have these characters that might be a bit peculiar in their actions, and they delve into dreams and sort of describe what happens in the dream. That's what I think is fun about it. And so if someone forgets to break a trade, or if the apocalypse card ends up in their hand for some reason, I just kind of recommend, don't sweat it. It's not going to break the game, really. I think that's what I have right now. Of course, I'll see you at Fastaval, and if for some reason you've reached this video without being one of the game masters I've sent this to, then I don't know how you ended up here, but I hope you. I'd recommend you check it out on Sailor Simulator. The rules are here. Everything's here. You can play it with a couple of friends. And that's I'm only sponsored by myself and all that. I'm looking forward to seeing you. That went silly. I'm looking forward to seeing you at Fastaval, and I hope you'll have a good time running this game.